My name is Olivia Bennett, and I'm 26 years old. This happened in Austin, Texas, and I never imagined the people who gave me life would become the ones who tried to ruin it. If someone had told me a year ago that my own parents would secretly pay my landlord to throw me out of my apartment while I was unemployed, I would have laughed in their face, but that's exactly what happened. And by the time I learned the truth, they had already made the biggest mistake of their lives. Because they thought I was weak. They had no idea who I was about to become. 6 months ago, life was almost perfect. I worked as a marketing coordinator for a fast-growing tech company in Austin. The pay wasn't amazing, but I loved my job. I had my own apartment, paid every bill on time, and was finally building the independent life I had dreamed about. My parents never seemed proud of me. To them, nothing I did was ever enough. Whenever I visited, my father compared me to my older brother, Daniel. "Look at Daniel," he'd say. "He owns a house already. What have you accomplished?" My mother wasn't much different. "You should have listened to us and become a lawyer. Marketing isn't a real career." No matter how hard I worked, I was always a disappointment in their eyes. Still, they were my parents. I believed that if my life ever fell apart, they'd be there for me. I was wrong. Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday morning. Around 10 o'clock, my manager asked me to come into his office. The moment I saw the look on his face, I knew something was wrong. "I'm really sorry, Olivia," he said quietly. "The company is cutting staff. Today is your last day." My heart dropped. Within 15 minutes, I packed my desk into a cardboard box, handed over my work laptop, and walked out of the building with tears filling my eyes. I sat in my car for almost an hour, not because I didn't know where to go, but because I didn't know what my future looked like anymore. That evening, I called my parents. "Dad, Mom, I lost my job today." There was silence. Then my father spoke. "I warned you this would happen." My mother sighed. "You've always made poor decisions." I waited for one of them to ask if I was okay. Neither of them did. Instead, my father simply said, "You're 26 years old. Solve your own problems." Then he hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Losing my job hurt, but realizing my own parents didn't care hurt even more. Over the next few weeks, I applied for every job I could find. I sent out dozens of resumes every single day. I attended interviews. I rewrote my cover letters. I even started freelancing online just to earn enough money for groceries. Still nothing. One rejection after another. My savings slowly disappeared. I stopped eating out, canceled every subscription, sold my camera, sold my gaming console, skipped meals just to make rent last one more week. Then the nightmare got even worse. One afternoon, I came home to find a bright red notice taped to my apartment door. Final notice. Pay all outstanding rent within 5 days or vacate the property. My hands started shaking. This didn't make sense. I'd lived there for almost 3 years. I've never paid my rent late before losing my job. Surely my landlord would understand. I rushed to his office. "Mr. Harrison, please," I said. "I've got interviews lined up. I just need a little more time." He barely looked at me. "I'm sorry, Olivia." "No, you're not listening. I've always been a good tenant." He folded his arms. "My decision has already been made." Those words echoed in my head. Already been made. How could he decide before even hearing me out? As I walked back to my apartment, something felt terribly wrong. I couldn't explain it, but deep inside, I knew this wasn't just about unpaid rent. I just didn't know why. I couldn't stop thinking about what my landlord had said. "My decision has already been made." Those words echoed in my mind all night. It didn't sound like the decision was based on my unpaid rent. It sounded like someone had already convinced him to get rid of me. The next morning, while I was sitting at my kitchen table searching for jobs, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then another message came. "If you want to know why your landlord refuses to help you, meet me today at 2 p.m. at Riverside Coffee on 6th Street. Bring no one." My heart started racing. Who was this person? Was this some kind of scam? I almost deleted the message, but something inside me told me to go. At exactly 2 p.m., I walked into the small coffee shop. A man in his early 40s stood up from a corner table. Olivia? Yes. My name is Kevin. I used to work in your apartment complex. I immediately became nervous. What do you want? He looked around before speaking. I know why you're being evicted. I froze. What do you mean? Kevin reached into his backpack and placed a brown envelope on the table. I've felt guilty for weeks. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Inside the envelope were printed security camera photos. The first photo showed my parents walking into the leasing office. The second showed them sitting across from my landlord, Mr. Harrison. The third photo made my blood run cold. My father was handing Mr. Harrison a thick white envelope. Kevin slowly pushed one more paper toward me. It was a copy of a handwritten note. 10 million now, the rest after she's out. We don't want our daughter living here anymore. Don't give her extra time. I couldn't breathe. No, this can't be real. Kevin nodded. I watched the entire meeting. They asked Mr. Harrison to make sure you were gone before the end of the month. They said helping you would only make you more dependent. Tears filled my eyes. My own parents. Kevin looked genuinely sorry. I have a daughter at your age. I couldn't watch this happen without saying something. I sat there in complete silence. Every memory suddenly made sense. The cold phone call, the landlord refusing to negotiate, his strange behavior. It had never been about the rent. It had been planned for weeks. I wiped away my tears. Why are you telling me this now? Kevin took a deep breath. Because yesterday Mr. Harrison bragged that you'd be homeless within days. I couldn't live with myself if I stayed quiet. Then he handed me a small USB drive. Everything is on here. The security footage, audio from the office, copies of the payment records. If anyone asks where you got it, I was never here. He stood up and quietly walked away. I sat there staring at the USB drive in my hand. I wasn't crying anymore. The sadness was gone. Something else had replaced it. Anger. Pure anger. For 26 years, I had defended my parents, made excuses for them, believed they loved me in their own way. Now I finally knew the truth. They hadn't just abandoned me. They had paid someone to destroy my life. I walked back to my apartment, plugged the USB drive into my laptop, and opened the files. There it was, crystal clear. The security footage showed my father sliding the envelope across the desk. The audio captured every word. Don't tell her we were here. Just get her out. My mother even laughed and said, maybe being homeless will finally teach her responsibility. I felt sick. I closed the laptop. For several minutes, I simply stared out the window. Then my phone rang. It was my older brother, Daniel. I almost ignored the call. Instead, I answered. His first words shocked me. Olivia, whatever you do, don't confront Mom and Dad yet. There's something you don't know, and you need to make one phone call before they realize the truth is out. Daniel's words echoed in my mind long after the call ended. Don't confront Mom and Dad yet. Make one phone call first. What phone call? I asked. Daniel lowered his voice. Do you remember Uncle Michael? I paused. Uncle Michael wasn't actually our uncle. He had been my late grandfather's best friend for over 30 years. After Grandpa passed away, he slowly drifted away from the family because my parents rarely spoke to him. I haven't seen him in years, I replied. Daniel sighed. There's a reason Mom and Dad never wanted you talking to him. What reason? They've been hiding something from you for a long time. Before I could ask another question, Daniel said, I can't explain over the phone. Just call him. Trust me. The call ended. I looked down at the USB drive sitting on my table. For the first time in days, I felt like I wasn't completely alone. After searching through some old family records, I found Uncle Michael's phone number. My hands trembled as I dialed. He answered on the second ring. Hello? Mr. Michael, this is Olivia Bennett. There was a long silence. Then his voice softened. Olivia, I've been hoping you'd call one day. I swallowed hard. I think my parents have been lying to me. He quietly replied, "They've been lying to you for years." Those words hit me like a truck. We agreed to meet that evening at his office. When I arrived, he greeted me with a warm smile. Unlike my parents, he hugged me the moment he saw me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For what?" "For not telling you the truth sooner." He opened a large filing cabinet and placed several folders on his desk. "Everything in these files belonged to your grandfather." I stared at them in confusion. "My grandfather?" Michael nodded. "Before he passed away, he created a trust fund in your name." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "A trust fund?" "Yes. He wanted you to receive it when you turned 26. I felt my heart pounding. "But I turned 20 6 months ago." Michael looked directly into my eyes. "I know. Your parents came to me before your birthday. They demanded that I transfer the money to them instead." I couldn't speak. I refused. So they stopped talking to me. Then he handed me a legal document. At the top, in my grandfather's signature, were the words, "To my beloved granddaughter, Olivia Bennett." Tears filled my eyes. Michael continued, "The trust contains $480,000, along with your grandfather's lakeside cabin and shares in the family business." I covered my mouth. Nearly $500,000. My parents had never mentioned any of it. Michael leaned forward. "They thought if you became desperate enough, you'd sign anything they put in front of you." I remembered all the papers my mother had tried to make me sign months earlier. She claimed they were insurance documents. I had refused because something felt wrong. Now everything made sense. Michael smiled. "They underestimated you." He opened another folder. "I've already contacted an attorney. The evidence from your landlord, the payment records, the trust documents. It's enough to expose everything." For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Not because the pain was gone, but because the truth was finally on my side. Michael looked at me and asked, "Olivia, do you want revenge?" I thought about everything my parents had done. They mocked me when I lost my job. They secretly paid to have me evicted. They hid my grandfather's final gift. They wanted me homeless so they could control my life. I looked him straight in the eyes. "No." He looked surprised. "I don't want revenge driven by anger. I want justice." A proud smile spread across his face. "That's exactly what your grandfather would have wanted." The very next morning, our attorney filed emergency legal papers to protect the trust and requested a formal investigation into my parents' actions. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was my mother. Her voice sounded terrified. "Olivia, why did a lawyer just contact us?" I smiled for the first time in months. Then I calmly replied, "Because your game is over." The moment I hung up on my mother, I knew there was no turning back. For years, I had begged for their love. Now they were about to learn that every lie has a price. The next morning, my attorney, Rebecca Lawson, filed a civil lawsuit against my parents and my landlord, Mr. Harrison. The evidence was overwhelming. The security footage, the audio recordings, the bank transfer showing the $1,000 payment, the handwritten note instructing the landlord to force me out, and most importantly, the trust documents my grandfather had signed years earlier. Within 48 hours, the judge issued an emergency order. The eviction was immediately suspended. Mr. Harrison was ordered to preserve every document related to my apartment. Then something happened that nobody expected. Kevin, the former employee who had given me the evidence, agreed to testify in court. He told the judge exactly what he had witnessed. I watched Olivia's parents offer money to Mr. Harrison. They wanted her out before she discovered the inheritance. The courtroom became silent. My parents avoided looking at me. For the first time in my life, they looked scared. A week later, local news outlets picked up the story. Parents accused of paying landlord to evict their own daughter. The headline spread quickly across social media. Thousands of people shared the story. People were shocked that parents could betray their own child in such a cruel way. My father's business started losing clients almost immediately. Several longtime customers ended their contracts. My mother, who had always cared about her reputation, refused to leave the house after neighbors recognized her from the news. Everything they had built on lies was falling apart. Then came the final court hearing. My attorney calmly presented every piece of evidence. The judge didn't need long to make a decision. He ruled that my parents had intentionally interfered with my housing, acted in bad faith, and attempted to hide assets that legally belonged to me. Mr. Harrison lost his property, management license form, accepting the payment and violating tenant protection laws. My parents were ordered to pay financial damages, legal costs, and return every dollar connected to my grandfather's estate. When the hearing ended, my mother rushed toward me with tears in her eyes. "Olivia, please. We're still your parents." I looked at her quietly. "No, you are my parents. But parents protect their children. You tried to make me homeless." She started crying. My father finally spoke. "We made mistakes." I shook my head. "No. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. A mistake is arriving late. What you did was a choice. You planned it. You paid for it. And you lied about it." Neither of them had anything left to say. A month later, I officially received my grandfather's trust. The money wasn't what mattered most. It was knowing that someone had believed in me all along. I used part of the inheritance to buy a small marketing agency that had been struggling financially. Within 2 years, I had turned it into a successful business with employees who felt respected and valued. I also created a scholarship in my grandfather's name to help young people who had been abandoned by their families. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. One afternoon, I visited my grandfather's grave. I placed fresh flowers beside the headstone and quietly whispered, "You kept your promise. I'll spend the rest of my life honoring yours." As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. It simply read, "Your grandfather would be proud of the woman you've become." I smiled, slipped the phone back into my pocket, and walked away without looking back. Because revenge had never been about making my parents suffer. It was about proving that no matter how hard they tried to destroy me, they could never stop me from building a better life.